And the whole premise, again, behind this series is forever we have looked to leaders in business, leaders in ministry, people that we look up to, father figures, mother figures, people that just in our mind we think, I want to be the next that person. And there could be multiple. I want to be the next leader in that way, or the next father or mother in this way, and things like that. And the whole idea behind this series is we want to no longer have this mentality of one day or next, but we want to put ourselves in a position to step into those roles, or at least be ready to step into those roles. And as Christians, we put a whole nother lens on that, right? Because we don't want just to be really successful businessmen and women. We want to do it for the Lord and do it right. And so the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks before this, we talked about King Josiah and how he was thrust into that position quicker than he expected, and how he was able to balance it all. And then 2 weeks ago, we talked about Joseph and how he was faithful in each step, even though the steps of his life were not what he would have planned or the way he would have drawn them out. Now, last week we took a break because a grip of you were at VBS. So you guys, first off, give each other a round of applause for that. Dude, thank you. I'm looking around, and a lot of you guys put up with abuse. My son squirted a bunch of you with a water gun and threw water balloons at your faces. Thank you for letting him do that. My kids had a blast. Thank you for volunteering. James, he was telling me last week, the amount of Common Ground people that pulled through really made it possible to do everything. So, guys, thank you. Once again, we want to be a ministry that is serving. That is one of the reasons why this series, Next Is Now, comes at a good time, because in so many ways we're doing that. So we want to double down. So tonight I have asked 3 good friends to come share with us. So if, my wife's like good friend. My wife is one of them. If you 3 could come up, and I will introduce you as you get up here, and then after we introduce everyone, I will pray and we'll get started. So first up, look at this crew coming up. You can give them a round of applause. Yeah. So first off, right here to my left is my beautiful bride, Courtney Matrenga. Now, what I want to do to start, I want to introduce you guys and brag on you a good amount. So, my wife, no offense, guys, is the easiest to brag on. I really like her. So, my wife, she, right as we were dating, started putting together a wedding photography business that was really successful. So, together, we have photographed well over 100 weddings, and you have done hundreds of family shoots or things like that. So, really, which is, I'm really stoked about, because there are a lot of photographers out there. And so you did that, but then you transitioned, and we have 4 kids. And so my wife is an incredible mom, and she's homeschooling our kids and doing a phenomenal job. But then on that also, 2 years ago, you had this idea and the vision behind a family journal. And we have some in the back I could show you later. But you designed and published a family journal that has now been sold to it's in multiple countries, and people throughout families across the United States are using this to help disciple their kids. So I love her, and she's done a great job, not only in the business side of things, but also in the family side. Oh, and you run the Everyday Moms Ministry here, so which is a blessing to a bunch of young moms. So that is my wife, Courtney Matrenga. Now over here, Jeremy LeBon, not as pretty as my wife, but a handsome dude. So Jeremy is the owner of 2.5 businesses, right? You own 2, and then you're a partner in a 3rd. And also you and your wife own a home in La Mesa. And Jeremy and I used to lead a home group in Common Ground together. And then you started taking over the business world and doing that. So you bought your first business, has it been 3 years? In August, 3 years ago. And since then, that business, you've seen it double in size. And while growing that to twice its size, you started a new business and became partner in the third. And you also are doing a little bit of investing with some partners as well. And how old are you? 26. So doing well on the business side of things. And Mr. Bryce Stacy here is 22. I got it. Bryce is on the ministry side of things. I wanted to bring him in and highlight what he's done. At 22, you're the director of Santee Youth Venture. And you took that over at 20 years old, which is pretty dang rad. Now, Youth Venture, we can take some of that for granted, but you there oversee a facility where this church invests a lot of money. You oversee between 20 and 25 staff members, and then all the kids that are coming in there. So you've been doing that for a couple of years and doing a really good job at that. And you speak a bunch of places. So that's Jeremy and Bryce. Give it up for them. Cool. Sweet. Did I miss anything? You guys have mics. So did I miss anything? Anything you guys want to add? So the reason we invited these three up is because when it comes to this series, Next is Now, they're doing it at a young age. They're kicking butt. And so I want to bug them and ask them how and like what that process has looked like. And if we have time at the end, I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions too. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them down. But so first off, we'll start with you, Bryce. We'll go opposite. What did it take for you to get into the position you're in today? What'd you have to do to even, be considered for that?
Sorry. If you guys don't know, David used to run Santee Youth Venture for 10 years before Shane Blayfield took over, and then I took it over a little bit later. And so I went through Santee Youth Venture, which I know some of you guys have also gone through Santee Youth Venture. And I was there for 6 years probably or something, and helping David with random events, with covering shifts, with doing all this stuff. And at the same time, I was also an intern here in our high school ministry with John Ayoa. And I did that for a couple years as well, and that is nothing but setting up chairs, moving heavy things, dealing with discipline, like all the grunt work that none of us ever want to do, and myself never wanted to do, doing that for a few years. So that way then I was in a place where I could be considered for that, of just proving like, hey, I'm going to put the work in for this. I'm going to be willing to do whatever it takes to have this ministry blossom and be successful. And so then through that and volunteer youth venture and all at the same time, just kind of got offered that position and then moved into it.
Did you have your eyes set on, well, I guess even stepping back, like, why did you start pursuing ministry in that way? You could have done all these other things. What made you choose to really invest all that time and energy, especially when for a couple years it was just stacking chairs and a lot of that grunt work?
Yeah, so in high school, mostly like junior, senior years, when I really got a call towards ministry. And I had no clue if it was like, hey, you need to do a youth venture shift, or you need to lead a small group, or if it was, hey, you need to be a pastor someday, or whatever it was. And started pursuing that and started praying about that a lot. And David was my mentor at the time, so meeting with him a lot and talking through that. And eventually got to the point of like, okay, the Lord doesn't want anything else out of me. And Dave Hoffman actually once told me that if you can do anything other than ministry, do that instead, which is kind of discouraging, but if you care more to know, I'll explain it to you. And just kind of that idea of like, the Lord really was just like, you can't do anything else. And every other pursuit that I had either just like failed, or there was so much anxiety going into it, or just it was not what the Lord wanted. And so landed in this place of like, all right, Lord, I'm going to trust you and go for it. And now I'm a few years into that and still in the middle of it.
Yeah, cool. So Jeremy, how in the world do you get to the place where you're 26 and have the success that you've had? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of like simple, but just like hard work. I mean, when I was in high school, I went to Foothills, so I was homeschooled Mondays and Fridays, and I had a job in high school. Started when I was, I think, a junior. I would work all my summers as well, full time. And then when I graduated high school on Friday, the following Monday, I started working full-time as well. And I was blessed to live at home, but also my dad owns a landscaping business, and they have, I think at this point, like 150 employees, so a good-sized business, several different branches, and so I was going to college online while working full-time for him. So just a lot of hard work. I mean, every day I would wake up 4:45 in the morning, go to work until like 2 or 3 I had to get off. I would go home, shower, go to a coffee shop, and just study until I'd be at church. Back in those days, I was a lot more involved in ministry. I did a lot more. I was really involved here at Common Ground, and just long days. I mean, I would, like I said, start at 5 in the morning and end at like 10 and repeat every day. The weekends, I would spend my days on Saturday studying. I really wanted to finish college within 4 years, but while working full-time, and so it's kind of how I did it. Again, living at home was helpful. I was able to save a lot of money, and I think I would just say, like, what I did was I did a hard thing for a long time. Like, I really did not like that season. I did not like that work. At times, I kind of hated it, but I knew, like, I wanted to be in business. I knew that I wanted to prepare for when an opportunity came, so I just put my head down, and at times was a little unhappy, maybe a little ungrateful, but I just worked hard, and it's worked out so far.
So this idea of you getting up at 4:45 every morning, working, then school, then ministry, and then holding yourself to that 4-year timeline, where does that come from? Why not 5 years or 6 years, or why not give in some areas?
So I graduated college like 3 days after 4 years, and I was so mad at myself. It was like a goal that I set.
That's it. He's a failure.
I honestly felt that way. I was like, oh my gosh, like I failed my last like exam, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna meet my deadline. I don't know the answer to that. I'm really driven, and I've always liked to work. But looking back at it, like, I mean, I had some long days. I don't know how I did it for so long, but I got used to it, and I'm driven. So
yeah. So Court, how about yourself? How'd you get to a place where you were able to have a successful photography business, or that's kind of successful marriage, Yeah. Stuff like that? How?
Yeah, because at one point it was one or the other. No, just kidding.
No.
But
we'll get to
so
that.
yeah, we'll get to that. So I grew up. This is hard. Okay. I grew up thinking I was going to be a teacher, and so I went to school to teach, and then my life just all of a sudden started to get different. I don't know. I met David, first of all, and then we decided to get married, and felt like maybe I don't want to go into teaching credential, and I had started this small photography business just to kind of make it through college too, to help put myself through college. I worked at preschool at the time in college also, and he just really encouraged me, saw a gifting in me in photography, and encouraged me to keep pursuing it. So since we were getting married, it just seemed like, well, I should probably give this a shot, and I started booking shoots and getting more clients, and people seemed happy enough, and so I just really felt like after praying about it that the Lord was calling me to not get my teaching credential. And so for me, it was kind of just really listening to the Lord and those speaking into my life and being willing to be flexible and do something different instead of what I had just planned on my whole life for no apparent reason other than I just planned on it. I did end up teaching for 1 year and got laid off, which was the biggest blessing ever in hindsight, because it kind of I got offered this teaching job, and then I took it, but I was also growing this photography business and was really torn, but it confirmed that the Lord didn't want me to do the teaching credential. I had no doubt after that year of teaching that I was not supposed to teach in a formal setting like that. And so I left that job and just kept building the business.
So on that note, so just so everyone knows, Courtney is the type of person in school when there's group projects, you want her on your team because she does everything above and beyond.
And by the rules.
And by the rules. And then we get people like me get to mooch off them.
Yes.
So thank you.
What, C's degrees?
Yeah, that was my saying in college. C's get degrees. Sorry, Mom. So you called me up. We were married at this time. She gets laid off from being a teacher. And you had,
And I was pregnant, like 6
yeah,
months pregnant.
and you're pregnant. And that was just unheard of. You had never been fired. You had never been. So one of the things that I want to caution everyone tonight about with these 3 stories is they're having success. I want to look at some of the framework, the blueprints, but your lives are going to look different than their lives. But even these 3 have had plenty of like bumps in the road. So
Closed doors. In that instance, I chose to see it as a closed door instead of have the perspective of I'm a failure after not graduating 4 years. Yes, he made it, obviously. But there's just like a perspective shift that you can have where you're just like, okay, what's next? Instead of I'm going to live in that right now and not dwell in what you thought you wanted or what you thought God had for you, and he didn't because he closed the door.
Yeah. I think that's important because you 3 are driven, and it's easy, especially when you're driven, when you hit a closed door, for it to be devastating. So, Jeremy, going to you were working for your family business, and it hit a spot where there wasn't, the future there didn't look bright, or, you can explain it better. It seemed like a big closed door. How did you recover from that?
Yeah, so a little background. My dad had this business that I was working for, and from like a young age, my dad and like all of his friends, people that I knew, always said that like they saw me being in business, and I never knew like what that meant, what that looked like, but it felt right. Like, I knew like that's what God made me to do, and so my plan was to work my way up through his business and take it over. While working there and going to college, so I spent about 6 years full time if you count high school. The whole time, like, every couple months, I would when I call a meeting with them and like say, hey, like, what's the plan? What are the next steps? And they never really laid it out for me. The tentative plan was finish college. We'll promote you to whatever the need is at that time, and then we'll kind of go from there. So when I graduated college, like literally the next week, I was like, all right, like let's meet, let's talk. And basically what happened was they didn't really have like a position for me. And at the time, in their business, they have like a maintenance side and like a design, construction, enhancement side. And they really wanted to grow like the construction side. And that was the part that I loved doing. That's like sales and that kind of stuff. So I loved it. So my dad, his pitch to me was, I can't give you a raise, but what I can propose to you is that you can take this branch and run with it. He was like, I will expect you to work 60 to 80 hours for the next 5 years. He said, you can expect to hate your life the next 5 years. Like, it's not going to be fun. I mean, he wasn't trying to like entice me. He was, kind of laying it out. And he kind of just said, like, the choice is yours. Like, you can do that. He's like, I can't guarantee you like what will be next, but that's kind of the path for you. And he really, I think he saw in me that he knew that I was like built to like do my own thing, like not work for the family company. And so he really encouraged me, like, look, you can do this if you want. But I think you should try like your own stuff, like give it a try, go start something. And so it was hard, but also encouraging. Like, it was hard because like I worked for that for so long, and I was like, man, like I just finished college, like I just met this goal, and like there's nothing for me, or what I do have like sounds not fun. And so opportunities opened up, and I moved on, which I can get to. But yeah.
Bryce, you were working hard, doing just intern duties, doing it well, and an opportunity came up for you to take over Santee YV, and you weren't chosen. It wasn't time yet. How did you handle that?
Yeah, and so I had been working at the church for like 2.5 years or something at this point. And so I had like been diligent, and like David said, I like genuinely was doing a good job and not missing or slacking on things. And then somebody else took the position that I like kind of been looking at for like probably like 5 years, or whenever it was in high school that I really felt like the Lord wanted me to move into ministry, because it is kind of a clear path. And I just remember being so just like, Lord, what the heck just happened? Like, why is this thing that I feel promised, I feel called to, I feel like entitled to, in all honesty, why is this thing not getting given to me? And I remember it was this pretty short like season. It was probably like the day that I got the news that I didn't get this position that was opening. And I remember just sitting there like, Lord, what's going on? And spending time in prayer, and I think I was meeting with David at the time still. And it was just this one day, and then it clicked in my mind of like, wait, like, Lord, you're good. Lord, you are faithful. You are going to promise these things, and you're going to fulfill those things. And I remember it clicking, I don't know if it was that same day or the next day or whatever, but of just, Lord, I can wait on you, and I know I'm going to be okay. It wasn't this thing where, like, I was all of a sudden in this horrible position where I was laid off or fired or, like, had to move or anything like that. It was just, oh, I have to wait for this thing. Yeah. And it really taught me this huge principle of just patience, which is so important, and especially if you're in ministry, just being patient to wait on literally everything and anything. And so it's just this like quick season of just kind of recognizing like, Lord, I can trust you in this. I don't have to think that I earned this or feel entitled, because none of that is healthy or safe or faithful or anything.
All right, so leaving this one open to anyone who wants to answer it. Being driven and balancing that patience and waiting on the Lord, how do you know when to go after something and when not to?
In my experience, if he wants you to go after something, he's going to make it really clear. Or in like weird ways that you wouldn't think that, like you'll be reading devotions and just something will stand out and he'll speak to you, or he'll speak to you through a door closing or something like that. And we just have to be willing and ready to listen to his voice and his leading, and trust and not try to control it. The only times where things have really gone awry is when I've just tried to control it, because I've tried to stick to my own plan and not been open to where he's taking me instead. And when I'm just open to his plans and hold my plans like really loosely, he's always so faithful to provide financially or to provide in creative ways that also provide financially or other things.
Yeah.
I think that like while waiting, doing what you can to prepare for the next opportunity or the next door that opens. And I have an example for that. So when I found out, or when I decided I didn't want to pursue that position at my dad's company, I waited. I didn't just quit and leave and go cry. I stayed put. I kept working and kind of just kept praying and thinking for an opportunity. I think within a month or two, I started applying for another job. I actually I got the job. I was basically about to sign paperwork, and then that same weekend, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was on a girls trip with Jenny Steckler and some other girls. But Jenny Steckler was who owned the business that I bought, and on that trip, she randomly just mentioned me and Weston thinking about selling our company, and Connie's like, wait, what? Jeremy would be interested in that, and within a month, we had a contract dealt up, and it worked out. But we did the steps of talking through everything, but that came because I was prepared, I had money saved, I was ready for something. But that's an example of how God opened the door and made it happen. So
that's sweet.
Specific example.
Yeah.
So for us, when we were moving out of wedding photography specifically and into this new business, Gathered We Grow, for the Family Journal, over a camping trip, I ended up finding out that I lost our entire website that I just spent the past year building on my own, because I didn't want to hire it out and spend $5 to $12 grand on a website that whatever I wanted to do myself. So I wasted 6 months of my life building this website, and then find out that the company they lost everyone's websites, and I had been faithfully backing up my website, all to find out that the file had 0 data on it. So I lost the whole entire thing, and it was sad. But we both chose to just see that as, okay, God, what's next? And then within a month, we had a word from a pastor who came from South Africa that we'd never met before. And he had a word for us and prayed over us that we were supposed to write and create, have a journal. And it was just a very specific word to things that he'd already been putting on our hearts, that he didn't know us at all. And it was just so cool to see how God closed one door and then very quickly gave us direction for the next door that we were supposed to enter into, but had we've been doing photography and too busy, would not have had time to do that. So he's so faithful to open and close doors when
Yeah.
necessary.
That's cool. I'm checking this. So, in order to get to the places that you guys are in, you had to give up things. So, Jeremy, you already mentioned that you had to give up kind of free time. You didn't have any free time for those 4 years. What are some of the other things that you guys had to give up in order to really be successful in ministry, business, and family?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have like the college experience. You know, most of my good friends went away to college. At the time, was GCU was like the big thing everyone was doing. Exactly. One of the left behinds. No. So yeah, it's never a lot of fun. I mean, I could probably count in one time how many times I went out after like common ground with friends. Like I know it's like a big thing everyone does. Like I just never ever did it because I was waking up early and I was tired and whatever. So at the time, like it was really hard. Like it wasn't like in the moment it like really sucked, but like I was hoping for it to pay off and it has. And so I would say fun for me, and then like yeah, spare time.
Bryce?
Yeah, there's like a few like glaring things that I think were like obvious when David sent this question of like the biggest one that's clear of working a life in ministry is probably finances, which is like kind of an awkward thing to say from stage, but I don't actually care. Of just like, I know I've been offered positions over the last 4 years where I could make like probably double, if not more money than I make. And things, just like struggles of that, of figuring out like, how do I just trust the Lord 100% for everything? And it ties a little bit back into, I'm a very like driven person that wants to work for things. And so that like idea of combating that, like I'm not going to be earning 100% of what I'm doing. I have to just trust the Lord in that. And then also the other thing that like I've had to sacrifice a lot is of friends. And so that's like, there's a lot of things that go into that of obviously not having super ungodly friends that are smoking pot or something, but also of like, I'm the friend that's in ministry. I'm the friend that's looking to be a pastor of, I've had people like not invite me to things. They're like, oh, you're in ministry. I didn't think you'd want to do that. And most of the time they're accurate and I wouldn't have gone anyways. But it's like those like slightly awkward things of there's like a stigmatism that'll come behind it. And it's like, it's worth it. I'm not complaining about it. But that's like one of the big things if you're looking at ministry of really being careful to guard, like your like reputation really is what's in that. So that's like another big thing.
Okay, for me, with photography, it's a lot of weekends. So my calendar on the weekends would fill up. People usually do things on weekends, so I just didn't do a lot of things on weekends until I learned to like space out my calendar better, or turn down jobs if it was getting to be too much, and that was much better for our marriage and our family. And not take, like I didn't have to take every single opportunity. It was okay to say no sometimes.
Court, we asked you, we asked Courtney to be here specifically. You did really well in business, and you still are doing well in it, but you've transitioned to being a mom and have done a good job letting go of things that could stand in the way of that, or that could take you away from being at home with our kids. And that's something I know a lot of the ladies in here, like can you explain the tug between both of those and how you choose which to give a priority to?
Yeah. So that was one of the things that was a really big blessing about not teaching. I was going into teaching thinking, oh, I'd have the same schedule as my kids and all that, but then I got pregnant with my first baby and started to freak out because I realized how much grading and dealing with parents and students and prep work there was on top of teaching. And I really did just have a heart that I wanted to be home with my kids. I was a preschool teacher, so I saw the behind the scenes of preschool and had decided back then that like, maybe I don't want to send my kids to preschool if I'm not there with them. Because there are some really great preschool teachers, but there are some that I would prefer not to be around my children all the time. So it was great going into photography because I at the time thought I could control my schedule, and honestly, it is great. Once I learned to say no to some of those jobs, because it's mostly a couple hours here, a couple hours there. Weddings are the longer days, and that was hard. But ultimately, I knew that my identity wasn't in my career or my success in the business world. I would tell people who would ask me, like other photographers, like, how many weddings are you shooting this year? And they went like down from 22 to like 5. And I remember that one of the last weddings that we shot a couple of years ago with a well-known videographer. I was like, yeah, we're shooting 5 weddings this year. And his face just dropped, like, what? Why would you do that? I'm like, I like being home with my kids. And like, he just could not comprehend why I would give up success in the business world for like staying home with my kids. And it was just funny, that realization that that there's a lot of people that their career is really important. But as a mom, I knew that I only have this small window with my kids, and it's like about 10 years where you have like this prime influential period in their lives, and it's gonna go by so fast, and I can do all the things that I want to do later on in my life. I have so much more life to live, but I want to be really intentional with the time that I have now. Don't really know if I answered this question.
Do you feel like, what do you guys think? Do you feel like, I mean, there was a season, I can tell you guys, we went up to Santa Barbara this one time, and we're hanging out with some friends that are wedding photographers. There's a group of wedding photographers up there, and they're like super cool. Like this one's like, I just shot in Italy, and this other one's like, oh, I just did Colby Calais' album, and this was back when she was like bigger and stuff. Is she still doing this? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I remember thinking, just thinking like, this is cool. Like it is fun to do that. And you're at home right now. Do you feel like, do you regret any of that, or do you?
No, I don't regret it at all. I constantly think like, I love taking photos, and honestly, I feel like that creative side is a gifting that the Lord's given me, and I do need to like let it out and like get it out somehow. But it's not taking pictures of people and being a photographer. It's not my identity. It's not producing like eternal value like raising our kids is. And I just seeing the world and God's creation through our kids is so much more valuable to me, in eternity, and helping shape their souls and steward them well is so much more important than just building a career.
That's
for
cool.
myself.
Because I have just one or two more questions for them, and then we're going to take a few of your questions. So if you're ready, be thinking of those. For any of you, the years that were more of a grind, do you regret any of it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I lost a lot of sleep. That was my thing that I lost. I don't really, who misses sleep? Like, you don't really miss it. But I missed a lot of sleep. I don't regret that.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing I would maybe regret, but I don't think I could have changed it, would probably be like starting something sooner. But I do believe like it was all in God's timing, and so I don't regret any of the like sacrifice. Honestly, I love what I do now. Like I love so much my days and what I spend my time on. Like I am so grateful that like God lets me do what I get to do. Like today, like I took a walk with my wife in the morning. Like I didn't have to go to, I work from home, so like going to walk, and we were praying together. And like as we were praying, I was saying like, God, like I'm so thankful like for what you've blessed us with. So I don't regret anything. I really don't. No.
I genuinely don't regret those years. Like as an intern, those were kind of like the grind years for me, and like still are. And of just like any regrets that I have in that aren't like the overarching thing. It's like man, I should have run that small group better, that higher ground. It's not this like overarching, like man, I'm so mad that I moved 3,000 chairs by the time I was 20, or whatever the number is. I'm like thinking about it. It's probably higher than that actually.
Yeah.
But like, there's no regret in that because so much of that carries over into where I am now. Of like, I have to go clean bathrooms all the time, and it's like that's the last thing
Yeah.
I want to do, especially where it's like you fence your kids because it's not like your house bathroom. It's
You're reminding me of stories that
yeah,
later
he
on.
knows. So I won't scar you guys. But just all that of just building up that like discipline to then move into positions where that comes into benefit even more.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to give like a false reception. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but like the grind, like the hard work is not over. Like, I mean, a lot of like my time now, like I do a lot of things I don't love, and there's a lot of like hard things that I have to do, like owning a business. And I think that's part of it. And so I don't feel like I've like made it yet, you know? I don't know if I ever will, but still like, hard things that happen now.
Yeah, I can't stand that. Find the thing you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I just think that's really dumb. I love my job, and there are just aspects of it that are work. And that's just, it is what it is. But I get to do what I love, even, you know, when there's those times. So, all right, last question, as far as you know. Looking at young adults today, what's one piece of advice that you would give them so that they could enter into the next positions of leadership that are available to them?
I think for guys specifically, one thing I would say is like just work hard. I mean, I really believe. I remember Mike Van Meter gave a message here at Common Ground when I was probably 2021, and it was about like cultivating the earth. And he spoke specifically for men and for girls, but for guys, he said like, you know, you were created to advance, to grow, to produce, and to work. And so that's always like stuck with me. And so I think for guys specifically, like whatever you're doing, like just work hard, like work really hard. And for everyone, guys and girls, like just trust God. I mean, trust Him and like do your best to like prepare for opportunity when it comes. But yeah, work hard.
I was just gonna say that I like the biggest thing moving into ministry is being humble, which like I was in no way a humble person graduating high school, which I don't know anybody except maybe Jaron actually. That's like humble graduating high school, and just there's like so many aspects of I've like seen friends move into business positions and just being workers, and then also in ministry of the Lord uses those that are humble. And if you're prideful and if you like think you deserve everything and that you're the best at, you know, whatever it is that you're moving into, it's likely going to have so many repercussions. And so just humility, and like that's something I'm still growing in, and I'm sure all of us are still growing in. And so that'd be my like number one.
Yeah. Court?
You remind me of the question.
Yeah. Piece of advice for them to step into the next positions they have.
I would just say, lean into the Lord and His leading. Surround yourself with wise counsel that can help you in those decisions or guide you into the next step that you're going to make. And also be willing to open your mind and your plans to what God has for you, instead of just thinking, I can't do this, or I'm supposed to be doing this instead, when He's actually closing a door and ushering you into something greater and better than you could ever imagine. Just might be different.
I want to reiterate all three of that. So you guys are saying, in order for us just to step into those next positions that are available, to be the next leaders in ministry or business or even in family, to work hard, put in the time, the effort necessary, to stay humble, right? Make sure your identity in God is really established and you're not getting prideful. And then to press in and to the leading of the Lord and surround yourself with good counsel and trust Him. Like those things right there, if we do those things, we're going to set ourselves up for success and to be an influence. And that's what we want, who we want to be and what we want to do.
And I think, too, all of us are working in our God-given giftings. Like Jeremy, business-minded, like he knew that from a very young age. He's doing that. He's pursuing that. He's made it happen. Ministry-minded, the Lord's called you. I'm doing creative things, but also teaching. Like that didn't just come out of left field. I thought I was going to be a teacher my whole life, and I'm teaching my own kids now, and it's way better. I love it. So we're all like working in our giftings and not trying to be something else or act in a different way than what the Lord's actually called us, which I think
Yeah.
is cool.
That's cool. All right, guys, anyone have any questions? You guys want to just raise your hand if you have one, and I'll have you guys shout it out. Any questions for these three? Yes, Nate.
Were you ever able to make consistent time for something recreational on the side during like the height of when you were working hard and getting your businesses and everything?
So I'm going to repeat each question just for YouTube and stuff. But so did you, during the grind, the real difficult times, were you able to make time for recreation, hobbies?
I mean, for me, photography was, my hobby. And working, even now, like I write, that's like my hobby. But my hobbies I also get paid for, and I like it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't do very good at that, very well at that. I'm still not. The one thing I did, like, try to make a priority was, so I played drums. I've always loved drumming and being a part of worship ministry, and so I've always tried whenever I could be a part of camps or special events or just weekly responsibilities of playing on a team. So that's the one area that I tried to focus on, but also it's kind of a ministry, so kind of cheating, but yeah.
She's getting paid for her hobbies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is a pattern. What about you, Bryce?
I didn't get paid for my hobbies. I love hobbies, and I have always tried to figure out ones, and I've settled on a few. But during that season, I think I was changing hobbies probably once every 2 months, because I was I don't have time to do this. Okay, I can't afford to do that. I can't find whatever reason it was. And so I definitely had time for things, but it was very sporadic and a lot of just shoot, I got 2 hours free. I'm just gonna go do something, figure out whatever it's gonna be. So yeah, there was time, but it was very up in the air, sporadic.
And even some of those hobbies, you brought students to and made it part of ministry as well. So I just know that a bunch of us have been rock climbing with you and stuff. So
Can I add something to that?
yeah,
I just started doing this other thing that is not really creative at all. And I was noticing that I was making money, but I was bummed a little bit because it wasn't fulfilling that hobby need or that creative outlet. So then I've been more aware of that and doing other creative things to make it better for myself.
so even when there's a financial gain, that's not the top priority. Is that, yeah? No. What other questions do you guys have? Yes.
Kind of in the vein of wise counsel and all that, how do you find place and time for people who we know aren't wise counsel, but who are still really important to us personally?
Okay, so a question, tell me if I reiterate this wrong. How do you find time for people that are important in your life, but they're not wise counsel? They fit in that other category, maybe
So
more
are
ministry.
they giving you would they be ministry, or are they giving you other advice?
Not necessarily for ministry, just any other.
Can we say family members that don't know the Lord or maybe not walking with it, or that category? Okay.
You just do out of honor and love for them. But you might not agree with everything that and they might not agree with you, and you have to know that the Lord's placed that on your heart. You can respond honoring and respectfully, and they can watch you flourish and grow because you're walking in the Lord's ways. But there's a way you can do that disrespectfully and respectfully. I don't know if that helps or answers your question. Even with me and what I did, my parents thought I was going to be a teacher my whole life too, and I went to college to be a teacher, and I prayed Lord, I don't think I'm going to do the credential. Help my parents have a change of heart, and they know the Lord, thankfully. But it was that awkward situation where I know I'm being called somewhere else, and my parents might not be on the same page. And so I went out to lunch with my mom, and we're sitting there, and I was telling her I'm about to graduate, and I don't think I'm going to go on for the next 2 years to get the credential. And she started tearing up, and she was like, I don't think you should. I think you should pursue photography. And I was like, bam, okay, like that's another answer from the Lord. Like he works in so many different ways. So I don't know, that's extra.
Courtney said this earlier, but learning to say no is so important in that. Because like depending on the position you go into, especially in ministry, being able to say like, hey, I've gotta go home. I can't be at whatever event it is. I need to be there for dinner. Or I need to go meet that friend from high school, or whatever it is. And just learning to like balance what you actually need to do, and then what is like extra beyond that's not necessary. Which
Yeah.
you should do extra beyond things that aren't necessary, but there is a balance.
Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? All right. Last call. Sam.
So, were there any times where you were like afraid or didn't feel prepared or had any like self-doubt, especially being in a role of leadership where everyone's looking towards you? Was there ever a time where you didn't feel prepared or were kind of doubting your ability?
Yeah, so any times where
Every
you're
day.
afraid, you had some doubt about your ability, your position, the things you were called to do. So, Court, you said,
Oh, I said like every day and every shoot and every wedding at some point. Yes. But you push through.
Yeah, for me, one time that stands. So yeah, all the time. But one thing that stands out is when I bought the first business. We took over in August, and that's like peak of like wedding season. September and October are crazy busy, and so yeah, I mean, I just had no idea what I was doing. I got to train with them like on a few events, but I was out there working with the guys and. Like the guys that anyway, I had no idea what I was doing, so for sure felt like way unequipped for that, and I have to like schedule a weekend of events, and I have no idea how long things take. Like it's a lot of things like that. But like fast forward to today, yeah, I would say it's like a weekly struggle of like just feeling like I have to lead these guys, and how do I treat them well and pay them well and do what I can with that, but also like run a lean business. Like there's challenges that I don't feel like I understand yet. I'm learning and I'm figuring out, but. It's kind of like day by day,
Yeah, the like first thought that come to mind is that part of my position is I have to lead people that are like all over the place on the age spectrum. So I have people from like Ryan Messick, which is right over there. I think you're my youngest, all the way to people that are like 65, 70 old men that have like run businesses or like done these crazy successful things. And that is like the most intimidating situation to walk into. And I've grown so much in it, but originally of like, oh, I have to discipline this 40-year-old man that could be my father on why he can't, punch a kid in the throat or, like some whatever situation. That's not actually a real one. That's why I said it. But just like those situations and just realizing like the Lord's faithful in it. And there's like so much more to go into, but like, yeah, there's always times.
yeah. Can we have the band?
They reminded me of one example. So when I was working for my dad, at one point I was doing like management, and I led like 23 guys, and I at the time was like 20, maybe 21, and like the youngest one of them was like 45. So like full grown men. Most of them were Mexican, did not speak English, and so I remember I was having this issue where a lot of them would leave work early and wouldn't tell me. So they'd get back to the yard, and they would leave work around like noon, and we finished at 2:30. And so on like the security tapes, I saw that. And I remember thinking, like, man, like, how do I confront these guys about that, like, in a respectful way, but also, like, correct that? And I remember, like, I held a meeting, like, the next morning, and I told them all, like, this is not acceptable. If you do that, like, you're going to be written up, all these things. And of the 23 guys, I think, like, 14 of them quit that day and just left. They, like, didn't want to do it. And I remember thinking, like, did I communicate? I had to use a translator, so I'm like, did I communicate wrong? Was I rude? And long story short, they ended up all coming back, and it worked out fine. But that was, like, a really scary moment of, like, okay, I also have to manage all these properties and get this work done, and I lost half my workforce. And they were good guys, so that was a funny one.
That's tough. So we have to, you guys all said, yeah, you deal with that all the time. How do you not let that control you?
I just have to always go back, even with the Gather We Grow book, like always go back to, okay, the Lord called me to this. And even if it was just something like I'm working just a more regular job, like biblically, the Lord has called us to work or do something. So it would just be constantly going back to the truth of like, we just need to work hard, and he's going to provide and even like provide every time that I've been in doubt or needed creative ideas. If I just stop and ask him, he's good. He always steps in and gives a new creative idea I haven't thought of before, or some kind of different direction. So
Good. All right. First off, thank you guys very, very much for being here. Yeah.
thanks.
If you guys could stand up, but stay where you're at, and if we could hit the lights, guys, I'm going to ask you to stay up here. I'm going to ask you guys to pray over our people. And so if you guys, stay standing and just take turns. Can you guys pray just a blessing over this group? And then we're going to sing a song of worship, and there'll be an opportunity to get prayer in just a minute.
Lord, I just thank you so much right now for all of these young students in this room, Lord, and the way that you have designed them and created them with their own unique giftings that you desire to use to glorify your kingdom, so that they might enjoy their lives because you are good, and they might enjoy you. And so I pray that you would help them see what you're calling them into, and that they would be faithful even in the scary things and the steps of faith to do the hard work of getting there, Lord. And would you bless them and guide them and draw people to them that will help them as they go about just stepping into the new season that you have for them.
Hey, God, I thank you for this group of people. Lord, I pray that you would be near to them. Lord, anyone that is, in a season of feeling lonely or feeling disappointed or kind of stuck in this season of, what's next and what are the next steps, God, I pray that you would just draw near to them. I pray that they would take steps to be near to you. I pray that they would find good people to be around. And Lord, did you just comfort them? And if they're in a low season, God, that you would just be close to them. And I pray that while they're figuring things out, Lord, they would keep moving forward. They would keep working hard, taking steps to advance and grow. And Lord, I pray that you would bless this group, Lord, and that you would be faithful to them, God.
Now, Father, thank you that Common Ground is a place that we get to come in and fight these battles, Lord, and not on our own, but with community, with you. And so, God, I ask that like Jeremy and Courtney prayed, that you would bless everyone in this room. Lord, that we're all going in different directions. We're all pursuing different careers, Lord, and that you would draw them out of that if that's the wrong career, Lord, or that you would move them into what you desire. Because, God, none of this is, and I know Jeremy and Courtney would say the same, that none of this is possible without your presence. So, God, I ask that you would be here now, that you would move, that your spirit would be here and bring conviction in this time. Because we need more of you, Father. So be here.